Tonight in Arkansas, there's a mother tucking in her daughter and turning off the light. A business owner's burning the midnight oil. An at-home dinner date is plating up possibility. And it's all happening under one roof. How? The power of a conversation, like the one John from Integrity Solutions had with First Horizon Bank about his vision for a sustainable mixed-use building. Now it's not just words, it's life. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/John. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Blogmas Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7. We're going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks today, and the episode name is Much Ado About Boimler. And there we go. Alrighty. By the way, we've made the connection that Boimler is also the key figure in Antagonist? Is it Antagonist in The Boys?
Protagonist, yeah.
Protagonist,
yeah.
Yes, Protagonist.
Yeah, and he's also son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan, yeah.
Which is just a little weird because he's also like 31 years old.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. Doesn't it seem like those two were stars like recently? It seems weird that they're...
No, they were stars in the 80s.
All right.
You've got Mail.
Now you just hurt my feelings. That was the 90s.
Sleepless in Seattle?
That was also the 90s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, then, the 90s was like 30 years ago,
Listen,
right?
I don't want to get into it.
Somewhere in the 20 to 30 year range, that's right.
Hey, I was a teenager in the 90s. What do you got going on?
Yeah, I was a teenager in the 70s. I beat you. Alrighty. Yeah, burn, baby, burn. All right. That's how we used to say it in the 70s, by the way. Yeah, so fact-checking. Here we go. Patrick McNee is the person. I couldn't remember the name of the actor. Patrick McNee played John Steed in the Avengers, the original Avengers. I think there was a different dude again in the Avengers Part 2 or whatever it was called.
Fact-check Part 2.
Fact-checking. I didn't realize that Joanna Lumley was, I did mention it a couple of weeks ago, but Joanna Lumley was the sort of the Emma Peel type character in the New Avengers. New Avengers, I thought it was called. There, so you don't have to do a fact check now. Alrighty, and Jonathan mentioned some Disney movie that came to direct to after the COVID thing and went right to Disney Plus. That movie would be Onward, and it was the characters, the brothers were Barley and Ian Lightfoot, and they had some sort of magic wand and they were looking for their dad or something like that. I don't know, I haven't watched it yet. And a little bit of trivia fact-check stuff for the Lower Decks. The shuttles on the U.S. Vancouver, I will be pleased to know, are named after Vancouver neighborhoods: Kitsilano, Fairview, and Marpole. I did catch Marpole, but I didn't know that was a Vancouver neighborhood. And then I think this one's you, John.
Yeah, there was just a couple of things. We mentioned the Matrix. We were talking about the Agent Smith not returning thing, and we mentioned how it could be rebooted. We talked about the Architect. The Architect, I guess, made his first appearance at the end of Part 2, not Part 3.
Yeah.
So I think at one point we said Part 3, but I guess it was in Part 2.
But when did he tell Neo this has all happened before? And
that's the end of Part 2. Yeah, that's when he goes into the secret room at the end of Part 2.
All the TV's in it. Yeah.
With his really weird monotone voice.
Doesn't he go back and visit him in the third one after the Keymaker gets him there or whatever?
That's in Part 2. The Keymaker thing, it's all in Part 2. I know. The only reason that I know this is because Xavier and I just rewatched this a few months ago.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
So therefore it's fresh.
I keep asking me, have you seen this movie? He's like, yeah, I saw it. Yeah, whatever. So I'm trying to find, movies he can watch that he's not seen before. Like we did watch 2001. I made him watch 2010 last time he was here.
Oh, yeah.
To get the whole sort of, second part of the story.
Yeah, there's no shortage of classic movies that he still has on his to-do list, so I'm sure he'll work his way through. The other one we talked about was Octopussy. We're talking about James Bond and the whole idea of multiple 00 agents, and so I looked it up, and 009 was the Bond compatriot who gets snuffed at the very beginning of Octopussy. So apparently there have been many, and I guess they just rotate through those numbers because he can't have been the first 007.
No.
And the last one, Venture Brothers, we were talking about where it was because I couldn't remember. I knew it was on a couple of different stations here, so it was on Teletoon here in Canada because we didn't have Adult Swim, but now we do have Adult Swim, and now it does air on Adult Swim here in Canada.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to catch up with it, is that the best place to to go, or is it like on the Netflix or the Hulu? Or
It is not here in Canada. I don't know where it is in the United States as far as streaming. Here, I don't think it streams anywhere right now. It might be, you might be able to watch the most recent bits on like Adult Swim on demand, but I don't really, like, I know it's not on any of the primary streaming channels because I would be rewatching it. I have all the DVDs and Blu-rays because it's been so hard to watch up here.
Right. Cool.
There you go.
So let's move on to our headlines.
Headlines.
Tommy doesn't play that game.
No?
No.
I'm just along for the ride for the sound effects there.
Wait a minute. Hang on. I think we just came up with our new catchphrase. Jaime, don't play that.
Jaime, don't play that.
Jaime, don't play that.
All right. Okay. See how it sticks.
So, first bit of headline is the fact, last week we were talking about the fact that we had a Dune trailer and we were excited about that. We were talking about movies and how movies are going to be this fall given COVID and the resurgence and everything else. So we had speculated, well, maybe we're going to see a bit of a dominoes with things moving around. Well, of course, it was the day after we recorded our last episode.
That's just the way it works.
It's always the way. Wonder Woman 1984 was bumped. So it was supposed to be out in October. Now it's coming out in December. So the funny thing is, and one of the things that we had speculated on was, well, maybe they'll move that to December and move Dune out till next year. But for the time being, and I don't know if this will last, and obviously all of this is subject to change given that we're going to be dealing with COVID ramifications for months still to come, Dune is still staying on the calendar. It's still set up for December. So we've almost got like back-to-back weeks with Wonder Woman and then Dune scheduled to both come out right before Christmas.
Is Tenet still in the theaters, though?
Tenet's still in the theaters and still ticking along, doing mediocre business for the handful of people that feel comfortable doing that.
Right. Well, like I said, back in the 70s, when you went to see a movie, you could go for like 10 weeks at a time. Like it would be held over for another 2 weeks. And
maybe that's all you can do is, you know, we talked about how do they try and make their money back in any way on these very high production cost films. Maybe that's the way, is you just say, hey, this is only going to be available in theaters, but it's going to run for 4 months in the theater, and that's how you squeeze every nickel out that you can, because otherwise they're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah. Do they serve popcorn and COVID or what?
You can definitely get both if you're not careful. So
you can get popcorn?
Yes, you can still get popcorn. I guess they've reduced the amount of offerings they have at their snack facilities, but you can still get some stuff.
Yeah, I was telling Jaime yesterday that our numbers are not looking good after, like, we were down to 50 per day kind of thing, and we're now up to, I think just almost 300 today, and now the Premier of the province, Mr. Ford, is talking about reducing the number of people that can hang out together. So, of course, when we say 300 a day, Jaime just laughs at us, right?
Yeah.
Look forward to that day that we have only that many in like one particular area of, you know, our fine country, and not the entirety of it as you all seem to be talking about.
Right.
Yeah, I think you guys are closer to 300 deaths a day. Unfortunately, it's pretty wildfire, and that's another issue. But it's spreading really rapidly down there. Still, it's scary. It's very scary.
Wow.
Next one we got is a trailer for something that is coming out on CBS All Access, and we'll talk a little bit about that name soon. Console Wars is the documentary about the old school Nintendo versus Sega, wars of the video game consoles and how they fought each other in the long ago. It looks really, really, really neat for folks who are interested in that kind of history or who grew up to that history like I did. So it looks like it's coming out on CBS All Access on September 23rd.
Last week we talked about DC Fandom coming back this past weekend. They were doing a second iteration. So they held that online again this weekend. It was not nearly as sexy as the first one. The first one, obviously, the new Batman trailer, the new Wonder Woman trailer, the video games, all kinds of stuff is really good. This one was a little more subdued, but we did get some good news out of it. And one is that they are going to take the content from the clearly now defunct DC Universe app and move it over to HBO Max, including renewing Doom Patrol for a third season. So that's good news. They also announced that they're going to Stargirl, I guess, had been debuting on DC Universe and then being shown on the CW in the States. Now it's just going to be a CW show. And the other one, Titans, I guess, is another one. So they're taking the content that was there that people seem to be enjoying. They're not going to just flush it since they're destroying the app. They're going to move that over. So there's that much more content for the HBO Max line, considering they've already got this stuff in production and now they've got a little back catalog going with some of this stuff. So that's good news. And Doom Patrol, I really love. I think it's just an absolutely bad crap crazy show, and I really think it's fun, and I'm glad that it's going to get at least one more season.
Over to you, Jaime.
Yeah, so I mentioned CBS All Access before, but let's recall that CBS had merged with Viacom to become Viacom CBS, and that includes Paramount. And oh, by the way, as CBS, or the combined Viacom CBS, is thinking about how do we bring our streaming service to, together and to other places around the world. And branding-wise, CBS is presumably mostly an American thing. I'm not sure that it shows up much elsewhere. So they have decided that in early 2021, CBS All Access, the streaming service, will be renamed to Paramount Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Plus is clearly the brand buzzword now.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. But is it PLUS or is it a little plus sign?
So they wrote it out as plus in this article, but assuming this is accurate iconography that they're showing, the logo has a plus sign or plus symbol on it.
So CBS CBS All Access is available in Canada, but Paramount is definitely a brand that we've had here because our Scotiabank Theatre downtown used to be the Paramount Theatre, right?
We used to have Paramount's Canada's Wonderland.
Yeah, they used to sponsor Canada, so we had the Hanna-Barbera characters there as well because of that. And they used to be like a almost, well, not quite life-size, but a large Enterprise and Klingon warbird hanging in the escalator chamber when you went to the movies. It may still be there. I don't know.
Yeah, the Bird of Prey. That was really cool. I like that one.
Yeah. So, and that was like as you were going, this huge escalator. I forget how many floors it was. It was like probably like 5-6 floors, right? Of the escalator. Yeah. It was brutal when it wasn't working. You had to walk up the stairs like an animal. But Paramount is a name that we know quite well here in Canada, and obviously Paramount are the people who own, or at least I'm doing air quotes here, own the Star Trek line, right? So, which is now, as you said before, CBS.
All under one roof. Yep. So, Jaime, you're going to get more content at least when you have to sign back on for your CBS All Access stuff. That's good.
Yeah. It's, as far as I can tell, pretty much a bonus for what was going on. I can't imagine that will last forever. I fully expect they'll squeeze at least another $1 somewhere in the month. It seems like every streaming service does it over time. But for the moment, other than all right, I guess I call it Paramount Plus at some future date. I'm like, it seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Just a bit of quiz here, John. Do you remember what the name of the Scotiabank Theatre was before it was Paramount? It used to have a funny name.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
That's what a blog.
I know it's changed names. Right. Yeah, it's changed a few times, I remember, but yeah. They're talking about wrecking balling it because they want to build another massive condo tower down there too.
Really? So it's going to go away? No more IMAX downtown? Well, we have the other one at Dundas, right?
Yeah, there's the one at Dundas now, right? Yeah. They haven't, I guess, I don't know. The last I heard, they were working on a rezoning for that city block that has the building there. They're talking about putting in a huge multifaceted complex there. All right, next up, I've got The Mandalorian Season 2 full trailer dropped this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we'd gotten a little teaser, but this is the first one that sort of seems to get a little more meat on it. So it's got a little bit of a setup for what we're going to see this season. It starts off with the Razor Crest, the ship belonging to the Mandalorian, with him and the child, Baby Yoda. And then you can hear this sort of voiceover, and the voiceover is the Armorer, the woman who was the leader of the Mandalorians who were in hiding. And she's sort of saying to him, well, you need to take this creature and you need to reunite it with its people. This is the way. So it seems like season 2 is going to be centered around him trying to locate the Jedi to try and reunite him with those people, because that's, as far as they know, what he is. It's a strange thing. Like, the trailer looks fantastic. It's, you know, it sort of hints at, you know, we see some X-Wings, we see some different aliens that we recognize from that. We see speeder bikes, and we see, you know, all these different sort of things that we're familiar with from this world. And then we also get a little bit of a look at, you know, some of the mystery. The mystery seems to be like, you know, how is he going to reunite them with that? But the part that's really confusing is they talk about the Jedi like nobody knows what they are.
Right.
You'd think if anybody would know who the Jedi are, it would be the Mandalorians, who are very, very respectful of their culture and would have that like oral history of who the Jedi are. So it's kind of a strange thing.
Wait, so we're not sure what do we know what time frame the Mandalorian takes place in? Because I thought
yes.
So
yes,
is this baby Yoda?
No, this takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so how would they not know who the Jedi are?
Yeah, so that's the part that's kind of confusing. And there's been lots of blog posts and nerd tweets about how this doesn't necessarily make sense, and lots of speculation on what the answers could be. It's possible that in the wake of episode 3, when the Jedi...
Is that when Spock came through the time hole and changed the whole universe and everything?
Yes, you nailed it. And then Thanos snaps his fingers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I think the idea would be that in the wake of the Jedi's being defeated by Darth Sidious, so the Emperor, at the end of episode 3, that not only did he wipe out the Jedi, and in the subsequent, 20 years between the episode 3 and episode 4, that there would be a, Darth Vader goes around and kills the remaining Jedi that are out there in the universe. But they are also doing like what we saw in Rogue One, where they are like wiping out Jedi temples. They are destroying they're literally like wiping their existence off the face of the earth. They're rewriting history books. They're deleting records. So the only thing that would exist is the sort of oral history that people would do that. And if you lived in an outlying world, which theoretically that's where the Mandalorian operates, maybe you wouldn't be able to have that kind of knowledge.
Right.
It still seems a little bit thin to me, but I guess you could buy into that as a premise.
Well, I guess like in the Foundation series, if you're way out on the outer rim, you didn't know about the central repository, because it was just in those books they come back to the central, like the what is basically Coruscant in Asimov's universe, and they didn't know what's going on. But of course we could mix all these metaphors together, but the same sort of idea that they were so far out there that they didn't actually know about the actual central history, right?
Yeah, and maybe that's the case.
I don't know.
I mean, did you get a chance to watch the trailer?
I didn't, because I haven't seen season 1, so I was like, oh, I'm sure it's good.
Oh.
it wouldn't be meaningful to me, because I've been waiting to watch season 2.
Oh, well, then we shouldn't have said Baby Yoda, because now we spoiled it.
No, the internet spoiled it like 2 seconds after that character appeared. Like, it was impossible to avoid on Twitter. So, spoiler etiquette and etc. for all future stuff. But I know enough to know that this character exists, so I wasn't surprised to hear okay, get him back.
Oh, but then you don't know all the lore about the Mandalorian himself, though.
If it comes specifically from this show, definitely not. I'm vaguely aware of some stuff from either Rebels or Clone Wars that I haven't seen, but I've seen people recapping.
Because Boba Fett's a Mandalorian, isn't he?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit murky too, because Mandalore is a place. Mm-hmm. Mandalorians are from that place, but Mandalorian is also it can be an adopted term too. So
like Ronin or something, right?
Yeah, the idea is that you can become a Mandalorian if you follow the way. If you are part of their beliefs, you can become a Mandalorian. So, because I think that's what they establish. Sorry, Jaime, but they established that a little bit in season 1, that the Mandalorian that we are as the protagonist of this series is not necessarily born and raised as one of the people from Mandalore.
He's born on Dorne, isn't he?
Yes, that's right. That's right. He's a sand snake. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
Where we're just going to jumble all our histories today.
Just all it all in there is a nice potpourri.
Yeah.
By the way, real-time follow-up. The name of the theater that opened on May 19th, 1999 was the Paramount Theater, Toronto, and it was with the release of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which I don't remember. I remember going to see Phantom Menace there, but I don't remember that being the first movie. And of course, it was owned by Paramount Theater and Paramount Pictures or whatever, right? So, and then it got sold in 2005 and became the Scotiabank. So it's only ever had two names.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been so long that I forgot calling it the Paramount as the place to go, kind of thing.
Yep.
There you go. Cool. All right, moving on. What's next?
Speaking of the 90s, as we were earlier, this little blast from the past, the Animaniacs animated show is coming back courtesy of Hulu. So apparently on November 20th of this year, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot will return in brand new episodes.
Cool.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting show. It seems like they got the original actor or voice actors back, so they should sound correct. So that's really neat.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I was always a fan of that show. That was the starting place for Pinky and the Brain, one of my all-time favorite duos.
Right. Those two I know, but I don't think I ever watched Animaniacs. It was too cool, I guess.
Well, I happen to have several box sets if you ever want to dive right in.
Oh, DVD? Who watches DVD these days?
Well, savages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so what's next?
We got news that we were talking again in our previous episode about whether or not we were going to make worth Jaime's money to invest in Disney Plus, and with Mandalorian season 2 coming and a few other things that are coming down the line, Mulan finally becoming free in December, Disney did confirm this week that WandaVision is coming in 2020. So that's good news. We did know that
not the boy band, right? Not the boy band.
No, that's a different thing. It's a Korean band, WandaVision. Yeah. Yeah, we knew that they had said they were aiming for this year, but then originally they were also aiming to have Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That one got bumped because it couldn't film. I guess because WandaVision's a little more studio heavy, they were able to complete that. So they have said December, but they haven't said a date. So that's good news. So there you go, Jaime. Yet another reason to flip your quarters at Disney Plus.
Yeah, that probably tips things, because I was trying to all right, well, Mulan, and which maybe given our last conversation last time, Hamilton, and binging season 1 of The Mandalorian, and then catching up, possibly even live with season 2.
You can also watch The Black Hole on Disney Plus, as I did.
Okay, I mean,
or 31 seasons of
I wonder if it holds up from my childhood.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't. I'd never seen it before, but so I finally got around to watching it, right? So.
See, I saw it in the theater, and it was bad then, and it's bad now.
Yeah, but it's bad in glorious Disney Plus.
Yes. It's good that they up-resed it so that you can see how bad it is.
Yeah, I watched episode 4 on Disney Plus too.
Yeah, 4K, and
is that what it is? 4K? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, this the place where you can get the 4K versions for just the low price of your monthly subscription.
Yeah. The drywall chipping behind Han Solo's head is very effective in 4K.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out. But isn't this also the one that has the weird McClunky scene added in now?
I think so.
McClunky!
I think so, yes. Inglorious 4K.
Inglorious 4K.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jaime, we're stealing your thunder.
No, it's totally fine. Continuing along Disney Plus, and in a vaguely Canadians in the news sort of a segment of this show, it turns out that the She-Hulk series that's coming to Disney Plus has cast its leading role, and look, it's Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black.
Hey, what?
Yeah, that was just tonight. Yeah, that's cool. I think she's a great actress. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, I wonder how they'll end up rolling with it. Some mixture of CGI, I presume, as the She-Hulk is pretty big. Certainly not, Bruce Banner Hulk large, so they don't maybe have to do too much.
Is she green?
She's green in the comic book.
Really? Yes. Mm-hmm. Can I just throw out there that I looked this up as soon as this got announced? Tatiana Maslany is 5'4".
Yeah,
5'4".
So they only hire short actors? Or what?
I just think that's strange, because She-Hulk is when she's Jennifer Walters in the comics. When she is just a regular person, she's sort of average height, which 5'4" is still not average height; it's below average. And then when she grows to be She-Hulk, she's she's supposed to be sort of Amazonian. She's supposed to be very tall and strong and statuesque. So yeah, I don't know if just all of her characters going to be done in CG with just Tatiana doing the voice, or I mean, obviously they've shown they can do an amazing job. Look at what they did with Ruffalo. Like, that Hulk character is all CGI, but it looks like Ruffalo, and it definitely, there's no worries about how it's going to look, right?
Yeah, and he does do motion capture in that suit there, so he's actually in the scenes.
But it's funny too, because again, when they do that they did it with him. They've done it obviously CGI with lots of characters, Groot and all kinds of Rocket, and lots of characters in the Marvel universe are CG characters. But it'll be interesting too, because part of the difference between She-Hulk and Hulk is that She-Hulk is supposed to be still very intelligent, lucid, literate, more like Professor Hulk than the dumb Savage Hulk, right? So she will be a little bit more like, she could be having a conversation during the show, but in CG. So hopefully the quality of that will be good.
So, question though, speaking of Groot, does Vin Diesel actually do like motion capture with that character? And how long do you think it takes him to learn his lines? But the first part of the question was a serious question.
I don't know. I know that I think.
And does Bradley Cooper do Rocket motion capture?
I don't know. I don't know if they do, because I think they might have like performers actually performing it, and then them just doing the
voiceover.
The voiceover. Yeah. But maybe that's something we can fact check for next week.
But how long do you think it takes Vin Diesel to record I Am Groot?
I mean, he says it a lot of different ways, lots of inflections, probably at least a day or two.
Right.
It would be hilarious if it was like 47 takes or something, just being there as the crew.
No, we need more gravitas,
I am Groot. I am Groot.
Okay, now you're walking into the room and it's like foggy, and you're not really sure if you're happy about the situation. Okay, now go.
Did you guys see the picture on social media of Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian? He was doing the voiceover work in the studio, so it's him standing in a recording booth with the microphone in front of him, and he has a pillow tucked up under his arm, portraying as if he is holding the baby.
Really?
When he does the recording. I'm like, that is freaking adorable.
Wow.
Nice.
Very method.
So wait, does he not act in the suit?
He does act in the suit, but he can't obviously deliver his lines through the plastic
with the helmet
mask.
On, right? Yeah.
Well, so when he does it, he has to obviously re-record his
what
stuff.
Baby? What are you talking about? Don't spoil it for Jaime.
Oh, sorry. I mean, the mission thing.
Yeah.
MacGuffin.
The secret
something.
Weapon thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's the ticket.
Right.
So before we move on to the main part of the show, I did look up out of curiosity, what is Mark Ruffalo's height? And somewhere between 5'7" and 5'8", with 5'7.5" being another source. So
yeah,
it's
so will Ruffalo and Tatlani be in the same show at some point? Is that like, does She-Hulk and He-Hulk meet up?
Well, so I've been reading She-Hulk comics since I was a boy. The original origin is that Jennifer Walters is Bruce Banner's cousin. He goes, this is when he's sort of doing his, walkabout. He has to go from place to place. He's sort of sought after. He's trying not to change into the Hulk. He's there. Something goes wrong. She gets injured and is going to die. He transfuses himself to her because he's a cousin, and therefore their blood is compatible. But part of that transfusion gives her also some of the Hulk characteristics and abilities, but not. She doesn't get quite as big, and she doesn't get quite as savage.
So I just had a really weird thought. Suppose she needed a kidney, and he gave her a kidney, and just the kidney turned into the
Hulk. You wouldn't like my kidney when it's angry. Somebody's ticking her off. She's punching herself in the lower back.
And her secret power is giving showers, right? All righty. Yeah. Now that we've ruined the rating on this show, let's move over to the main part of the show, which is where we talk about Lower Decks. Season 1, Episode 7, Much Ado About Boimler. And I think Jaime is going to take the reins this time.
So we start off on the Cerritos, where the Lower Deckers, as they tend to call themselves, have returned from, a very long, tired day of doing grid work. And Tendi shares that she's been creating a dog, or at least a dog-like life form with its DNA altered. And it's a weirdo. Like they think, oh, it's just like a normal dog. And then it starts doing weird, like creepy spider stuff, and it scurries up into a corner after Tendi has left. It's like really weird and wild. And Tim, what I thought was it looked like a Mac like dog, but not normal. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I guess, yeah.
I'm not sure that I would have qualified Mac as normal, but sure.
He's never actually met Mac, so he just knows him as just an alternate host.
Two-dimensional photos and an occasional background sound.
There you go. Yeah, and I like how freaked out Boimler is and how blasé Mariner is.
Right.
Yeah, there's just like I've seen worse. Let me know when it's interesting and we deal something.
Yeah, wake me up when it turns into something I need to care about.
Yeah. So setting up the sort of the position where characters are going to be in this episode is the senior staff. So Commander Ransom, Shax, and Captain Freeman are apparently going to be off on a special ops mission. So there's going to be a visiting captain and part of their crew coming on board the Cerritos to continue on its normal mission. So kind of vaguely like when you had Captain Jellicoe, who came aboard the Enterprise to take over when Picard and Worf and Dr. Crusher, I want to say, went on that secret mission into Cardassian space. Right, so kind of a similar setup. I don't know why I mentioned this, but apparently the dog shows up again and turns into a cube and starts rolling around.
That part's funny.
Just randomly doing weird stuff as normal dogs are wont to do. And we switch over to Rutherford, who is tinkering with the transporter, trying to make it just a little bit more efficient, save half a second on the beam out, and he convinces Boimler to be his guinea pig. And the first beam works fine. The second beam leaves Boimler all phasey, as he was calling it. So he's 1 millicochrane out of phase, and not only is he this like shimmery blue version of himself, but there's also this like weird, wild background static noise. That Rutherford says, "Oh, you can barely notice the noise. It's humming off of you."
Right. And that one had the great line too, where when he's really excited to help Rutherford with the mission, he says, "Boim me up."
Boim me up. Yeah. And we're introduced to Captain Amina Ramsey, who, as it turns out, has a bit of a history with Mariner. And it seemed like they were both in the academy together. And as you may have noticed, we said, wait, Captain, right? So they're, roughly the same age and had things gone a little differently. Perhaps Mariner herself could have been captain. And that sets up some of the rest of the conflict that's going to go on throughout the episode. Boimler tries to, pretend as if nothing's wrong while he's on the bridge. And they're like, what the hell is going on here? You need to go to sickbay and get this figured out. And so he does. The doctor figures out he's like all phasey. Eventually, he after I think getting jabbed with some instruments to take samples, he stops making the sound. So at least that's a little bit positive. And
it's Rutherford comes back in, right? She's just trying to figure out what he is in samples. She says, "You look like a goddamn science project." But then Rutherford comes in and he says, I got it. And he runs the tricorder over him and the sound stops and he goes, "Okay, great, I'm fixed. Hey, wait a minute, why am I still phased?"
Yeah, but there's no sound.
He's like, "There's no sound now. That's much better."
And they talk about how there's Division 14, D14 that...
Section 14, isn't it?
No, it's Division 14.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, who takes care of these odd situations that happen to Starfleet personnel. Somewhere around this time, the dog opens up and has bats and other stuff come out of it. Again, as dogs are wont to do. And you have Captain, I'm sorry, was it Ramsey? Captain Ramsey asking Mariner, "Hey, we got to do this mission, going down to this planet. Do you want to be my first officer?" So clearly the friendship there is benefiting Mariner. Then we see I think I wrote this.
Hang on, Jaime. You missed the dirtiest line I've heard in this show so far. When Ramsey asks Mariner, "Have you seen Ransom's photon torpedo?"
Yeah, photon torpedo. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is true. She did tease her as your friends might, right? See if there's anything that happened there of romantic nature.
Yeah, I never would have thought to refer to that as a photon torpedo, but sure.
Yep.
Really, that's 24th century slang.
So the Division 14 ship shows up. I think I got the right number correct, but at the very least, it is an NX, so experimental class of ship per its registry. It's very odd looking. It doesn't look like a normal Starfleet ship, and it's kind of scary looking and kind of foreboding to see. And they have their medical specialist come on board, who starts immediately talking about how by my walking on board is your consent to any and all things that might occur. And we're gonna take you to the farm, capital letters, that cures all. This is what what we do with people who are sick, in the same way that Boimler is, where weird wacky space stuff has occurred. And for those who may not be familiar with the term, quite often something that is told to children when they have a pet, such as a dog who's not doing too well. The parents might claim that the dog was sent to a farm upstate where they have all this space to roam around and have fun and play. So as an aside, that seems to be what they were going for here, that Boimler is getting sent to the farm upstate where he's just not gonna be around anymore, at the very least.
And he mentions the specialist mentions the dark abnormalities and the clinically obscene.
Yeah. So we end up with Mariner joining Captain Ramsey and her crew, and Mariner's just looking real bad in front of the crew. She's forgetting all sorts of stuff. She's walking in the wrong direction, where one of the crewmates is like, are you on a different mission, or are you coming with us, because you're heading in the wrong direction? He tries to make a little bit of chit chat with the Vulcan officer, and chit chat is not for Vulcans. They don't see how it's relevant to the task at hand. It turns out this muck removal system or generator or something has a cascade valve that is jammed open, and they call for Mariner to give them the tricorder so they can figure out what's going on. And it turns out she accidentally left the tricorders on the Cerritos, so they have to scramble to try out a sonic pulse or something to reset the system and save the day. But the key part of it is that Mariner has looked real bad and less than capable. Later, we're back on the Cerritos, or Captain Ransom checks in on how things are doing over VideoCon. It talks about how they might have to plant these volatile seeds as part of their secret ops mission. And the Cerritos is supposed to rendezvous with the USS Rubidoux, but it's late, and Mariner on the bridge, instead of triggering a deep scan, has accidentally triggered the red alert, which again makes her look bad in front of her friend and in front of the crew. And I think she says something like, "Oh, it's okay, it'll tire itself out, right? Like the red alert would just stop if you just leave it."
Yeah.
And then we're over on the D-14, the Division 14 ship, where we meet the freaks and geeks that have been collected and who are all ostensibly heading to the farm, and including a man who is equal parts accelerated growth and reverse aging. They have a person who is in the Captain Pike special chair, who after exposure to Delta radiation,
and Anthony the whatever. Anthony the weird fish-like creature. Was Anthony a person? We think so.
Yeah. I've seen some speculation online that the weird fish salamander person was a reference to Voyager's episode Threshold, where Captain Janeway and Tom Paris end up going through the Warp 10 phenomenon, where they eventually become lizards and lizard lovers with children in that episode.
Yep.
I'd already mentioned the sent to a nice farm upstate thing, but it's kind of used more concretely here, where I forget his name, but it's the half young, half old man says no, Boimler, don't be an idiot. Obviously they're not taking us anywhere. We're just gonna live on this ship forever.
This is the farm, yeah.
This is the farm, yeah. They're not taking us anywhere. What's taking so long to do this thing? Been on here for so long, and they start clearly being very upset with their situation, which we'll come back to as we smash cut over to the seeing that the USS Rubidoux is adrift and powerless. So the Cerritos crew has decided, all right, well, they're going to go over, see if they can fix the situation. Captain Ramsey says, oh, look, they're constantly losing power. I'm going to have to save their butts again, right? And the freaks back on the Division 14 ship are talking about we need to mutiny and get off this ship because we can't can't just be trapped here as prisoners. And Boimler, like fake agrees, but then goes and immediately tattles to the medical specialist. And there were kind of different expectations there of how that was going to go. Boimler was like, well, I'm telling you this in confidence. I'm tattling here because, I want to make sure that there's a non-violent resolution to this, which, of course, the specialist gets angry, uses his third arm, his chest arm, to bash his table and go grab a gun and immediately go over, right, to tell people, hey, what the heck's going on with this mutiny, right? Like, I'm gonna crush this thing. And oh, by the way, thanks to Brad Boimler for telling me everything that was going on.
That Brad Boimler, that one right there.
Yeah. Poor guy. So the away team from the Cerritos, run by Captain Ramsey and Mariner tagging along, etc. They have gone on board the derelict Rubidoux, and they've realized that all the power is off, but they found the crew, and the crew is all scared and freaked out and floating around because the gravity isn't working. And I guess I missed the part where with gravity not working, the crew who came aboard, the away team, has to use their magnetic boots, and this is another opportunity for Ensign Mariner to make a mistake and just look real bad in front of her friend. And coming back to the crew of the Rubidoux, who were discovered, they're like, don't turn on the power. This thing that we're inside of, it feeds on electricity. So they try to tell the other part of the away team, don't turn on the power, but the signal isn't going through properly, so it comes out as turn on the power. and unfortunately the creature starts like tearing apart the ship, right? And this is where Ensign Mariner sort of comes to life and becomes the Mariner that we're used to, and starts kicking ass and taking names, saving people. And then Captain Ram's like, what the heck, where has this person been all day, right? And I think maybe I skipped over the part where they can't beam out because there's not enough time, so Mariner calls up Rutherford and says, like, we need you to use your special transporter thing to beam us out. He's like, no, it's not working. He's like, just do it. It's going to be fast enough. And the crew ends up getting oh no, I'm sorry, I've misread my notes. I completely screwed up that, so forget all of that. Forget all of that. So this is what happens when I take vague notes. So coming back to, where has this Mariner been all day? Captain Ramsey's like, yo, what the heck? You've been sabotaging this whole thing. Like, you must have figured out that I was going to offer you a role on my ship on the Oakland. And Mariner's like, yeah, I don't want to level up necessarily. Maybe that's not my thing. Maybe I'm just like a really good ensign. Like, I can't just be that. And we do learn back with the Division 14 folks that the farm is real, and it is actually kind of a nice place. It's like a spa. Everything is pretty nice there. So whoops, maybe they shouldn't have tried to do the mutiny.
Well, and they find it a very funny way too, because they're mad at Boimler for ratting on them, so they chase him into an airlock where he suddenly becomes normal again. And they're like, well, good for you for being normal again. Have a nice trip into space. And they open the airlock, and he just falls out under the grass.
Oh right, he's like, why is the air not being forced out of my lungs? Because I should be in space. Yeah. And the Division 14 medical specialist is like, maybe we could paint the ship some happier colors and turn on some lights so it isn't so creepy. Maybe this is giving people the wrong impression.
And his evil laugh too.
Yeah,
that's just how I laugh.
And it's here, amongst all the niceties of this getaway spa, that Tendi learns that normal dogs, they don't talk or do any of the other things that we mentioned the dog doing, and they certainly don't float away like a unicorn or something. It's such a weird trip, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize that dogs didn't do that. I mean, she's from Orion, right? Maybe she's not all up to speed as to what human Earth dogs do.
Normal dogs can't fly and spit lightning? I like the line from the dog, too, where she says, don't worry about it, Tendi. I like it here. There are many fascinating things upon which to urinate.
Yeah, it's a very, very dog-like thing to approach life.
Yep.
And, it even turns out that Boimler might be, kind of a sexy person on this planet of the misfits. And now that he's, no longer freakish because the accidental, phased thing that happened to him is has worn off, the old young man points out like, hey, he's not a freak, and Boimler's like, no, I have acid reflux. Is that freakish? Like, oh, see, I've still got this problem. And they're like, oh no, we only like people who've got problems. And so he's you're going to be kind of sad there because he's not going to be able to be the cool man on campus as he might have been had the beaming thing stayed around. This actually probably comes back to the Rubidoux, where the only way to escape before the ship is destroyed by the energy entity is for Rutherford to boim us out of there with the special transporter stuff. So the crew of the Rubidoux is saved. They're beamed over. They're all phasey and blue like Boimler was. But as we learned, apparently that is a temporary state. And we see a kind of very Star Trek-y thing that the space creature sort of emerges from the Rubidoux, but kind of like a hermit crab, where it has used the ship's sort of superstructure and hull as part of its own body. And you've got Commander Ransom who comes over and tries to put the smooth moves on Captain Ramsey, who just like makes him eat it through like a table of like, oops, sorry, reflexes, and the two friends.
And Tendi gets to meet a real dog too. Right? Tendi gets to meet. Hey, are you a good girl? Ew, she licked me. What a weirdo.
Yeah.
I also liked when Boimler is trying to figure out how to go back to the farm because he wants to go back to get with the really hot nurses, and he says to Rutherford, "Can you do it to me again? Just like something weird. Make me into a 2-week freak." Yeah, good episode. I thought. What do you guys think?
Interesting. So wasn't the sort of the planet creature thing? Wasn't that in Farscape, the very first episode of Deep Space or the Next Generation?
Encounter at Farpoint.
Farpoint. Yeah.
Farpoint. Yeah, wasn't that like the first 2-parter or something like that? Or
yep, where they have this creature that can alter matter, and they have it imprisoned, and it's similar concept, I think. Although this one seems like it's sort of feeding off the energy of the ship to be birthed or something.
Right.
I really liked. There's a real throwaway line in that sort of fight scene where they're trying to work their way up to the bridge to get out of there, and Mariner fires a phaser at it and says, "Not today, snot." Like big blue goop sticking through the walls.
Yeah, I ended up liking the episode. I'm a little disappointed, if I'm being forthcoming, that I thought it was going to go in a little direction. So far, we've generally seen Ensign Mariner as mostly having all of the answers when it comes to it at the end. And I thought, oh, maybe this is where her failing is, that she can, be in a higher sort of level than the other lower deckers, as we assumed. It seems like she's got some more experience than the mere ensign level that she is. But maybe in front of her, her peer, maybe there might be some sort of a hidden self-esteem issue where she, falls apart and loses the cool. And they didn't go that way, but I think they did add something interesting to it, where we did see that maybe she doesn't want to be more ambitious than a lower decker ensign, right? We clearly saw the other episode earlier this season where they intentionally, upranked her to make her irritated. So kind of interesting. It didn't go in the direction I'd quite thought it was going to go, but I was still pretty pleased with the episode.
It'll be interesting to see, because obviously through the first 7 episodes we've shown that Boimler, like even in this one where he's trying to impress the new interim captain, and he's like, does my hair look better this way? Does my hair look better that way? Like, he's always so eager to please, and he's always so interested in advancement of his career. So he is the juxtaposition to Mariner. It'll be interesting to see if this show lasts for several years, or if they do sort of stay in this sort of mode, or if they evolve the characters so that, maybe Boimler and Rutherford and Tendi start to move on, and how will Mariner feel about that? Like, this set up some interesting possibilities for storytelling that way.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, like in cartoons, they don't generally evolve beyond the original setup, right? I mean, the story may evolve, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo are always going to be in that van no matter how far into the future we go, right? Or how many episodes there are.
Well, we joke about The Simpsons getting into season 31, right? Like,
Yeah, right, true. Yeah. So Bart's been going to that class for a long time.
yeah, he's kind of standing still a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, I mean, the Flintstones did evolve because they had eventually had kids and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? Like, but Bam Bam and Pebbles never aged, right?
Well, they did eventually, because by the time we got into the 80s, they did the ones where they were like getting married.
That was like a second generation, though, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
it was Flintstones, the next generation.
That's right. And Fred and Barney were older men. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, sitting on a park bench complaining outside a bank.
That's right. Yeah, the dog gags. This episode was made by the dog gags. It just kept getting weirder and funnier, and then to culminate with the dog, like in like a perfect, pretty, girl's voice, talking to Tendi, like, well, of course I can talk, and of course I knew all about this stuff, and
well, she knew it could talk all the whole time. But the other thing too, she was never looking at the dog when it transformed into something else, right?
Well, she was in the room when it changed colors,
right?
She wasn't there. Like, she knew something was wrong.
Came out of its head, she was looking away, right?
She was, and when it transformed and like climbed onto the ceiling, she wasn't there either.
Right.
She wasn't there when it turned into the metallic cube, which was really, really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was there because it was when they were just about to get onto the D14 ship when it started like just randomly flashing colors. But yeah, the dog was like a very, very funny part of the show.
The gag.
3 episodes to go.
Yep.
Seems like it's full steam ahead.
Do you think they'll have a mirror universe episode in the next 3 weeks?
I hope so. I don't know if they'll do it in the next 3 weeks, but they have to do one eventually. They have one
in every iteration, haven't they? Except for Next Generation, I guess, right?
Yeah, they didn't do one in TNG. I'm just trying to think.
Voyager,
I think everything else
didn't have
one.
Enterprise even had one.
Yeah, Enterprise had one. DS9 definitely had.
Yeah.
Did Voyager not have one?
They didn't. The closest thing that they did was the episode that actually takes place in the far future, and they're looking at historical records of what they think Voyager was, and it was like this kind of like a mirror universe where it's like the warship Voyager, and people are just like totally evil versions of themselves.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Yeah, that is just absolutely, if the show is at its best when it's going over Star Trek tropes, that's got to be in the mix somewhere.
Yeah. Well, because they did the whole Black Ops thing this time, and it's funny that the Black Ops is just like planting seeds, right?
Yeah. And I've been pretty happy with how they've made use of the sort of the lack of limitations they have when it comes to animation, where we have very, very alien crew members. We have the dog does weird things, and even just Boimler's transporter effect would have been some CGI cost that would have been something that had to be budgeted in, whereas now it's just like, it's just a different color, right? That's not that big deal.
They've always had transporter accidents in, because they had the Kirk was lost in one of them in the original series, and then Riker gets split in two, right, at one point.
Well, and Scotty was like permanently in the transport buffer when they found him.
Yeah, he was trying to save himself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff like that. You're right, Jaime. Though, like, they could never have afforded to do the episode where even just the part where they walk through the D14 ship, and you have all the weird different effects of the different accidents on the different characters. Like, in cartoons, it's a piece of cake and it's really funny and it's a very effective sight gag. That would have cost like how much in CGI and prosthetic effects and like it would have, and it probably still wouldn't have been as funny, right?
Yeah. And just thinking about the dog stuff, some of the stuff it does would have been probably pretty horrifying to see.
Yeah, it would have been like Alien. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I think it does open up a lot of things. I noticed that when they go down to the bog planet, the indigenous people there they look like axolotls, right? Like they've got like the little gills and stuff like that. Like they look very amphibious, which you're like it almost is kind of souring the live action versions of the show, where you're like, everybody looks really human.
With just some weird stuff on their forehead or their nose or their ears or something.
Yeah, no, to be fair, Doug Jones is a huge step forward from where we were with like the Klingons in the 1960s playing Saru, but I also think that, you know, they are still really quite humanoid, and they're, you know, they all have arms and legs and necks and torsos, and, you know, they really don't do a lot because, you know, you got to work within your limitations, obviously, but makes you wish they had the budget to do like a little more CGI intense version of the live action shows and throw a few more random, weird, you know, use your imagination alien characters.
I was going to ask a question, but I can't remember what it is.
Do Commander Ransom's moves ever work?
Yeah, we almost had a Commander Ransom episode this time, you know, just from the opening dialogue, right? But
yeah, that was just, it was too funny because it was such a clear throw to that Chain of Command episode from season 5 of TNG, right? Where they're wearing the black outfits and they're going on the secret mission and they get the new captain, and they even reference Jellicoe, right? She, Mariner says, you know, oh man, an interim captain. I don't want to be some Jellicoe babysitter type, you know.
really?
Yeah, she says Jellicoe. She says, she references his name, which, again, for TNG fans, of course, it just pops right out, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I guess we'll move on to our watch list then. I'm going to let Jaime go first because I've got a couple things, but go ahead, Jaime.
I too have a couple things. One of mine was related to today's episode about transporters and accidents and how they work. The Saturday morning breakfast cereal comic, pretty short. I'll read it out. It'll be in the show notes of the transporting it home. It's got a transporter operator and a Starfleet crewman saying, "All right, sir, step into the teleporter." And the other guy says, "How does it work again?" It's like, "We murder you, collect the remains, then shape them back into you somewhere else." It's sort of like, you ever see ground fish meat shaped into a fish? The other guy says, "I might just take a shuttle." Luddite.
Right.
And my other one related to Star Trek is Steve Shive's Trek Actually series. One episode here on YouTube where he talks about examining Star Trek The Next Generation's favorite premise, which it was kind of surprising to see them all collected here, of just how many times there was the premise of a young child, or certainly less than an adult child, has been orphaned permanently or temporarily, and the premise of the episode is that one of the crew members acts as a surrogate parent to that child. Picard did it, Worf did it, Data did it, and it was kind of interesting to see like how many times the writers of TNG sort of went into that particular well.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that is a very familiar process. I mean, we've been joking about that. That's sort of how Lower Decks has made its hay, is all these little jokes at the expense of tropes that are repeating. But when you look back at the 55 years or 54 years of Star Trek, there's a lot of recycled material.
Yeah. And the one thing I hadn't really thought about was that one child who ended up becoming an honorary member of Worf's House of Moog, which does that mean he was dishonored when the House of Moog was dishonored and then eventually disbanded and absorbed into the House of Martok? Does that mean this kid is now part of the House of Martok? This needs to be explored somewhere in some media. Maybe he'll show up in season 2 of Star Trek Picard. It's like, "Hey, who are you?" I was like, "Well, actually, part of House Martok." He's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, let me just explain all that, how that happened." "Oh, yeah, that's right. Mr. Wolf it was one of those many children that we had who came on board ship. Yes, that's right.
They're everywhere."
All right. Mine's I'm going to do the second one first and the first one second. John Wick 3. So Jaime's always going on about big popcorn, movies. And I think for me, a popcorn movie is definitely the John Wick franchise. I finally got around to watching John Wick 3. I thought I'd seen it before, but then I started watching it the other day and realized, okay, I haven't seen this one before. And it's another take on the whole John Wick, crazy fighting guy. We learn a little bit more about his background with the whole Russian mob connection, and silly rules that they have in this franchise about the restaurant or the hotel where no one can do any killing and whatever. And of course, John did in episode 2, so they had to finish off the story. So that was kind of interesting one. I realize it's a couple of years old, but there you go. I definitely suggest if you're looking for a good popcorn movie and you've watched any of the John Wick series, John Wick 3 is pretty good. It's based on a comic book, right, John? John
Wick? Yeah. I don't think so. I think it's original.
No? Oh, okay, all right. Seems like it is. Anywho, so the other thing I was telling telling Jonathan about the other day was I accidentally started watching Prime Rewind Inside the Boys, and it's hosted by Aisha Tyler.
Yeah.
And she holds no bars. She halfway through the first episode, Carl Urban says, "I can't believe that I'm on a show that's even more depraved than the actual show." Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let you figure it out. Yeah, it has something to do with gills. Yeah, so it's a Talking Dead kind of After Black series where it's arguable about whether Talking Dead or After Black came first or second. But Orphan Black, you had this show After Black where they would talk about the show on Canadian television, and in the States they had Walking Dead, and they would do the Talking Dead afterwards. I think they also do one for Better Call Saul as well.
Yep.
And they've of course they've done After Trek with originally, and now I'm not sure is the Wesley Crusher
Ready Room, yeah.
Ready Room, because I saw After Trek online the other day, but I wondered if it was just that original first series, right? Anyway, so this is that same format, but it's been updated for the whole pandemic COVID kind of thing, because the Aisha's in the studio with a whole bunch of props from the show around her, and yet the guests who are there, and they had Carl Urban and the guy who plays what's his name, Highlander? No, Highlander. Homelander. Yeah. Homelander, the actor who plays him, both of he and Carl Urban are from New Zealand, surprisingly, and the young girl who plays the initial character, Erin Moriarty, and of course a couple of the showrunners, and they go through and talk about and they've had the guy who plays the lightning guy, the speed guy, what's his name?
A-Train is the speed
A-Train,
guy.
thank you, yeah. The guy who plays A-Train's on one of the episodes, and of course the guy who plays Fish Dude, Aquaman.
The Deep.
The Deep,
thank you. He's been on a couple of shows, and and the actors actually, they do shout outs to their characters. Of course, they do it tongue firmly planted at cheek at the actor sitting not next to them, but sort of on the same screen. So they're all remote. I should say. There's a big LCD screen, and you see the actors in I guess their home studio or whatever, remotely dialing into this thing. So it's very much like a Zoom call kind of thing, but with a huge soundstage studio kind of thing. So I think that's sort of the future of television for the next little while. It's going to be safe distancing and social distancing and like safety protocols and that kind of stuff. But still an entertaining show. Everything's done in real time and live and all that kind of stuff. So very well produced and like off the hook funny. I don't know if you've watched the first episode yet, John. Obviously not.
Of the Prime Rewind or of the show?
Prime Rewind Inside the Boys. Yeah.
No, that's on my to-do list. I just caught up this week. We talked on the weekend. I watched the first 4 episodes of The Boys, so I've seen. Yeah. I'm all up to date now. Looking forward to tomorrow's episode 5. So that's
so
going to be
confused. It comes out on Fridays now. Is that the deal?
Yes. Yeah. New episodes on Fridays. I think it's only 8 episodes for the season, so they're halfway through already, which is both good and bad. It's amazing. It's so good. It's such a great show.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this whole I guess now that production is for most television is going to be delayed. They're not giving us the whole enchilada to watch, right? They're feeding us piecemeal. They didn't do that with the other episodes, right? Last year it was all available all at once, right?
Yeah, I think it just depends. I mean, I think there's different models that have been tried on a few different fronts. Some, like even Netflix has apparently talked about doing week by week, and they do week by week in their partnerships. Here in Canada, they have a partnership with CW, so they don't do the same. They don't air it at the same time as it airs on CW. They air it afterwards. But yeah, like there's a few different circumstances where they've been experimenting with like week by week drops of episodes for different shows, and I think this is Amazon's top rated show. It's the number one thing that they've produced original content wise.
Really? Wow.
And so I think what their thought is let's use this as best we can. Let's drag it out so they're going to do 7 weeks because the first 2 episodes dropped at once, right?
Right.
So they're going to do it for 7 weeks. And I think, again, doing the Aisha Tyler show and everything else, I think the goal is to try and stretch it out, get more people interested, have them subscribe a little longer, or have them just have their eyes on the program so they can pump some of their other material material too.
Right. Yeah, very entertaining. Like I said, I tend to I like to watch these shows. They're sort of mind-numbing things that working on other things. So I don't have to, watch the screen, but just sort of laugh along with them. Yeah, I do recommend it. If you're a fan of The Boys, definitely check out this show. If you're not a fan of The Boys, definitely check out this show.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you need to even see the episodes to sort of get the humor of what they're talking about. Yeah, but that's it. That's it for me. Jonathan, do you have anything?
Yeah, the only thing I'll mention is, The Boys. Watch The Boys. It's so good. And I have finally started getting about halfway through the second season of Umbrella Academy, another show shot here in Toronto, and another similar kind of in its tone to The Boys, sort of on the darker edge. I don't think it's as dark, but on the darker edge of sort of comic book storytelling, and it's great. It's really, really good. I wasn't sure. I really enjoyed the first season. I wasn't sure how the second season would translate, but it's been terrific. So I definitely recommend diving into that one.
Yeah, I have to catch up on that and Doom Patrol.
That's the next one on my list. So I'm going to finish Umbrella Academy, and then I'll be ready to get into season 2 of Doom Patrol. That's the last sort of outstanding thing for me. Although I still haven't. I've been looking to see when Stargirl's going to be here in Canada, and so far it's been Snake Eyes. I haven't seen it anywhere.
Stargirl?
So. Yeah, there's a new. That was the one that was on DC Universe and also on CW in the States. Here, if you have a premium, like the top tier cable package, you can get one of the CW stations here, and you can watch it here on that. But if it hasn't been picked up by any Canadian broadcasters, as far as I know, I haven't looked for a few weeks, but that was the last thing I saw. So that's disappointing because it has gotten good reviews, and they've been doing a whole Justice Society of America subplot with that, which looks really interesting to me as a big comic buff. So
okay, well, I guess that's it for another week. So hey, Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they find you?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
All right, and Jonathan, people want to get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram as @JPK News.
All right, my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA. On the Twitter machine is where you'll find me. So until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
I was just thinking about this photon torpedo thing. The other thing that I noticed that stood out was, the two people that were beamed together into one body.
Yes.
Right? And the woman says, we have two of everything. He says, almost everything.
Almost everything, yeah. Again, two subtle, but definitely, edgier lines on the show. It's good. It's good. Did you guys see the PlayStation 5 stuff?
Coming. Yes, right.
So they announced all of the stuff yesterday. They showed the trailers for some new stuff. They finally announced the release date. They finally announced the prices. And they said, this was at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the presentation ended here. And they said, pre-orders will be coming soon, but they weren't more specific than that. And then over the course of the evening last night, all the different major retailers here in Canada started putting them up for pre-order. Mm-hmm. And one by one, they would all sell out. So by this morning, I went on and checked, and our Craigslist, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, all that stuff is just packed with scum who have
$1,000, $2,000.
Basically there's two models. There's one that's discless and there's one that uses discs. And yeah, the range. So they were here in Canada. They were $500 and $630 respectively, for the disc is the more expensive one. And yeah, $1,000, $1,500, they're all back up, and it's all the pre-orders that people placed yesterday are all back up online. Oh my, they just can't get these things right. Like, it's so terrible. You know, and then of course this is a day after Sony announced they were going to be about 4 million short on their estimates because of a chip manufacturing deficit.
Issue.
So
right.
yeah, so what a mess. And then of course the Xbox is going on sale, I think it's 2 days before, so there's going to be a whole, you know,
is there going to be pre-orders for those, and that's all going to go out of control too, or
I don't know. It's funny because I used to be quite involved, obviously, with the gaming community because that was part of my job, and but I don't know anybody, and not even my number one son here, who is interested in that new Xbox. Like, Xbox kind of shot itself in the butt, or not Xbox, Microsoft kind of shot itself in the butt, because they used to have exclusive titles where you had to have an Xbox in order to play Halo or Forza or, you know, Gears of War or any number of franchises. But they've gone to this model over the past few years where it's dual platform play. So you can play it on a PC or you can play it on your Xbox.
right?
So
Why would you buy an Xbox?
most gamers have gravitated, well, that's the thing, you can get a better performance out of having a PC because you can customize it and everything else, and a lot of gamers prefer the experience of using a keyboard for gaming. So they've kind of destroyed their own necessity to own their product, which is strange choice. Whereas PlayStation's gone the opposite direction and basically saying, like, this is the only place you can get the new Spider-Man game, this is the only place you can get the new Sackboy adventure game, this is the only place you can get Gran Turismo 7 was promoted yesterday. Like, they're like all about the exclusives. You want to play Last of Us 2, you want to play, you know, Uncharted, you want to play these, like, you know, now tentpole franchises for them. This is the only place you can do that, and it's smart business, I think. So with tax, a PlayStation 5 for the disc model here in Canada comes to $711 and some change. That comes with no games.
A free iPhone, right? Yeah.
Comes with no games and comes with no one controller.
And yet it's the whole subscription model, which I totally object to, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you wanna get the system and a game and a second controller at minimum, you're looking at probably almost $900.
Wow. Plus subscription.
Plus, if you want to play any kind of online stuff, you have to have a PS Plus and all that other stuff. So yeah.
What's PS Plus cost per month?
I don't recall. I think it's you can do like 1 month, 3 month, or 12 months, and I think it goes down. I think it's like $60 or something for 12 months. It's not unreasonable, but they've sweetened it. So part of the announcement yesterday was that they're going to do PS4 games immediately playable on download through PS Plus for PS5 owners, and it's like A-list. It's like all the best titles from PS4 will be available as, like, if you have a PS Plus membership in your PS5, you can sit down and just start playing them. So you can play God of War, you can play Uncharted, you can play, you know, like all the best titles that they had to offer in the last gen. So that's at least something. So if you skipped PS4 for whatever reason, or you couldn't afford one or whatever, and you want to just jump into PS5 for a relatively low investment, you can get a whole bunch of really, really, really good titles.
Cool.
So, so should we put you down? Are you down for the $900 investment?
No, not interested. I don't even play my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, and you have the cool PlayStation 4.
Do I? Yeah. Oh yeah, I have the Darth Vader one.
You have the Darth Vader one. That one's awesome.
Which is now worth nothing, right?
Well, it isn't. It's still a pretty cool collector's item. How about you, Jaime? Are you console gaming interested enough to want one of these things?
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Like, I do see the same thing that a lot of the exclusive, so like it's not available on both platform stuff, is, I think, much more strongly in Sony's camp, especially with, like, you know, the God of War sequel, Ragnarok, teased and etc. And I want to say Final Fantasy 16 as well. I guess to Microsoft's credit, though, it does seem like they didn't punch themselves in the face when it came to pricing this time. So they have the much lower price $299 discless model, and it looks like they probably forced Sony to match pricing for their $499 disk drive based model. So I'm like, wow, at $2.99, that's not bad. I don't need the disc stuff. I would probably want to go eventually more towards the streaming gaming sort of thing. And, it seems like they have a lot of things lined up in their favor, like Xbox Live and their new whatever Ultimate Game Pass that includes stuff like xCloud streaming and etc. Like, it seems like they have it there. They just need to come out with exclusives. Like, go buy some studios or something, man. Take those monies that they're getting for Office 365 and Azure and just shove it into the Xbox division and say, go buy some exclusives for us if you have to.
Yeah, and it's particularly strange that they've done that, but not, like, again, this whole PC equal model thing is a strange choice.
Yeah. So I don't know. This will be an interesting generation because I'm as a Mac owner and I don't have a gaming Windows PC. I'm kind of left out in the cold when it comes to PC gaming. Like, it's pretty rare to get good games in a timely basis through like Steam as an example. But if streaming becomes a thing of like some server somewhere is what my dumb terminal is connected to, and I don't have to have actual devices, like, oh, suddenly the Mac becomes just a dumb terminal for gaming that's happening elsewhere. That could be pretty compelling, especially if the consoles start opening up some of that as well, if they try to expand their market in any way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting time. Meanwhile, there's Nintendo still trugging along.
Yep,
doing their own thing.
As they usually do. They're always gonna Nintendo. Like, I think you'd mentioned the last time, the Mario 35. Oh, it's only for limited times. Like, why? Why would you make this? It's not like a physical thing. Like, oh, we're only gonna make a very small number of this exclusive item. All right, that's a very Nintendo thing to do, but it kind of makes sense. But for the online service, like, just leave it running and have it, reboot itself every once in a while if you don't want to have, dedicated ops people. Like, why have this online service game run for such a short period of time? It's weird.
Yeah, it's strange because they've got the Super Mario 3D bundle that's come out too, and so it's a Switch playable version of Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Sunshine, which are all three very well regarded 3D Mario games. So they've got these great titles. They put them in a physical package so you can buy it, and it comes out tomorrow, I think. It actually comes out in the physical package, and then you could also buy it online. But even the online sales, they're limiting it till March, and then after March you won't be able to purchase it anymore. I'm like, I guess it's a motivation tool, like, hey, it won't be here forever. If you want to get a physical copy, it's going to sell out because we're not going to make too many, and if you want the digital copy, you have to spend the money on it before spring, otherwise it's going to be gone and you won't be able to get those games for the system. But those are like, if you're a Nintendo fan and you don't want to have to dig out your old systems, that's like a no-brainer purchase, right?
Yeah, it's just so weird. And one thing I wanted to bring forward to your guys' attention, if you hadn't thought about it, was I don't know what the heck. Like both Nintendo and Microsoft have these weird naming problems with their systems, and the only one who, and this is my original thoughts here. I was listening to the Castle Super Beast podcast, and they were talking about how, like, by happenstance, Sony has ended up with the easiest and most straightforward naming thing of like PlayStation plus a number, right? And This is PlayStation 5. And if they needed some variant, it was like a Pro, right? So PlayStation 4 Pro. Great. In this one particular podcast, they were talking about the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, not to be confused with the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S. And oh, by the way, game compatibility between those was blowing my mind. I was having trouble listening to this, so keeping straight of like which Xbox One S games would be available on something like an Xbox Series S or X. And it's just nutty. And they were bringing up like, hey, look, there was a period of time that, for older generation might still be there that like, oh, the Nintendo, my grandchild wants the Nintendo. It's like, well, actually they're playing PlayStation now. And then at some point Sony got such market share that it was like, oh, the PlayStation. Well, no, actually it's this new Nintendo device. It's already problematic as it is when these devices have very, very different names, right? Xbox, Nintendo something, and PlayStation, and folks who are looking to buy something for a birthday or Christmas or something have trouble with that. Why would you make it hard for people who are in the community to, like me, to keep it straight in my dang head with these bonkers names that also sound similar, like X and S. That's really hard to hear over the phone, and you have the poor parents or grandparents going to to the store or going online. Oh, I don't know. I guess Jimmy and Sally wanted this Xbox One X. I guess they did say X. It's just bananas.
Yeah, it really does stretch logic. Although it seems like they might have been taking their cues from the good folks at Apple, who are just like randomly skipping numbers and adding letters to their sales products as well, right?
Yeah, and X is a weirdo one because if you take Roman numerals and English usage and Japanese usage, it could be the series X, the series 10, or the series Cross, depending on who you're talking to and how they might interpret the brand name.
Well, it's funny, Apple sort of screwed themselves too, because the last operating system, we have Mac OS 10, right? And it's been Mac OS 10 since like 99, right? And they just decided to go to 11, right? The problem is that when we coders write our code, we've been writing, like if we wanted to check like a feature is available or framework is available, we've been saying if it's, OS 10 and we're using the number 10, dot, 15, 16, whatever, they had to allow us to use 10, 16, and or 11 as the version number in our code, because a lot of people had already, sort of done sort of versions of 10 dot something or other, right? And so they had to, so both are acceptable versions of the current of Big Sur, which is, the 16th iteration of 10 or the first iteration of 11, right? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff you guys wouldn't see, but, Jaime and I just kind of shake our heads at, right?
Yeah. Again, it just seems like unnecessary complexity.
Yeah. It's marketing, though. It's the marketing departments who decide these things and make grief for everybody, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I got to run. I got some more projects I'm working on and like that.
All right.
Talk to you guys later.
Talk to you later.
See you guys.
A client met his banker to discuss opening a restaurant in a busy airport. In us, he found a partner that understood the importance of reaching for the sky. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac.